The SEC and the ACC go back at it when Kentucky faces Virginia Tech at the Belk Bowl. We got Kevin McGuffey on the line from Last Word on College Football to break down the Wildcats. Kevin, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Mark. It's good to talk to you again. I believe it's been a couple months. I think the last time we talked was maybe after the Florida game. So I'm in a whole lot better mood than I was. A whole lot better mood than I was that night. But yeah, I think things are good. It's been a miraculous, maybe not miraculous, but a big turnaround with this team this year, and it all stemmed from one thing: moving Lynn Bowden to quarterback, and it's been pretty. It's been really fun to watch these last few weeks, that's for sure.
Lynn Bowden, if you don't follow Kentucky football, one of the best wide receivers in the league, forced into action at quarterback. Terry Wilson going down, and then the injuries ensued from there, and the decision was made, let's put our best athlete at quarterback, and recently rushed for an SEC record 284 yards in one game. And just the offense has to be completely revamped, even though Terry Wilson, obviously a dual threat guy, and many of those plays certainly transfer, but just talk about the transformation of the offense and the way it looks with Lynn Bowden, because a lot of people lose track of a team like Kentucky that are watching their particular teams, but then once bowl season arrives, are going to lock in on these games and watch them. So what has that approach looked like with Lynn Bowden at quarterback?
Yeah, as you said, it's been a just a total 180. They had Terry Wilson, who was supposed to all summer and all going into the fall, we heard about was how much improvement he'd made. He went down in the second game of the season, torn patellar tendon against Eastern Michigan, and the backup Sawyer Smith had an injury. And so at the end of the South Carolina game, Kentucky was already losing anyway, and they weren't going to win. And, they had been talking about possibly running Bowden at quarterback. And so, Mark Stoops, Eddie Gran, those guys, they put him in, and he led them to a touchdown on the last drive. Then you go fast forward to the next game against Arkansas, and I don't want to say it's like drawing up plays in the schoolyard, but it's it's kind of like Bowden left, Bowden right, Bowden up the middle, running the option, the triple option with the four really good running backs that Kentucky has, and AJ Rose, Kavasi Smoke, Chris Rodriguez, and then Travis Tisdale. And as I said, they put Bowden in. He ran for over 100 yards in 6 of the 7 games. The only game he didn't was Georgia, and he got 99. And that was, against a very strong defense, and it's played in a monsoon. I think some people around the program, may be secretly hoping for a rainstorm in Charlotte on the 31st, because I think it seems like every game they've played in the last few weeks has been, in some kind of rain, monsoon, something. But yeah, it's just been amazing to watch. He 1,235 yards in 7 games, which I think is tied. I think put him third in the SEC for the season, and that's only playing in 7 games. He just won yesterday. I've got a post about it up at Last Word on College Football. He was named the Paul Hornung Award winner for 2019 for the most versatile player in college football, and you can't. I don't think you can argue with that. He, not only does he have the most yards rushing, he hasn't played receiver in 7 games for Kentucky, and he still leads the team in receptions and in yards per yards receiving, and still by a wide margin, I think. And he beat out Clyde Edwards-Hilaire from LSU, Joe Reed from Virginia, and then Wan'Dale Robinson from Nebraska. Shout out to the Nebraska guy who's always talking about Wan'Dale whenever I'm on. Anyway, but like I said, it's been really amazing to watch. And then just, taking it a step forward, he did announce on Monday that he's going to really no one's surprise, he's going to forego his senior year and put his name in the NFL draft and see what happens. I think it's interesting. If you look at a couple of the mock drafts, you don't see his name anywhere because I don't know where they're going to play him. Why he obviously his main position would be wide receiver, but you could draw some similarities to maybe what Lamar Jackson has done this year. But the only thing is, obviously, he can't throw the ball, like Jackson. He can run the ball. And it's, what he's done this year has just been, been really, really fun to watch. And that pains me to say that as a Bengals fan, but, being a Bengals fan is its own misery, I guess.
Yeah, that only adds to the list. It's not the sole focus of the misery. It just adds another one.
Right. But going back to your top original, I mean, it's just been they've just totally revamped the whole offense. I think a lot of people, myself included, even with the 10-win season last year, I think you could almost say that Stoops, Eddie Gran, Darren Henshaw, those guys have maybe done a better coaching job this year. Just to get to 7-5, and then just having to revamp the entire offense halfway through the season. Like I said, it's been fun to watch. Watch him play. It's been really amazing, actually.
Yeah, there was a key stretch, obviously, there in September, and we talked after the Florida game. So there was a situation in which this team had the opportunity at that point to get continue the undefeated streak out of the gate. They had Florida down by double digits. They blow that game 29-21. Key matchup, obviously, in the division where they were vying for maybe that not that early in the season as a number 2 seed, but you knock off Florida and who knows how much you can achieve. And then you lose to Mississippi State and South Carolina by 2 scores each. And they didn't turn out to be very good football teams when it was all said and done. And it just didn't look like Kentucky was going to go anywhere at that point. And they turned it around and pretty much beat the teams that they were supposed to beat and beat those teams that were on that same plane, like a Missouri. Had a tough loss against Tennessee, finished the year with 3 consecutive wins to become bowl eligible again at 7-5, and really put it all together against the Louisville team that had its own resurrection from last season, 2-10 to 7-4 going into that game, and was arguably the second or third best team in the ACC at that point. And your Wildcats has really put it together against them.
Yeah, I really did. I thought that was going to be a much closer game than what it was. There were a few people that said, just wait, Kentucky's going to blow them out. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. You're crazy. And then, it was, as you said, it was a pretty incredible game to watch. Like I said, Bowden, 284 yards. It's the second most in school history in a game behind Mo Williams, who had 299 against South Carolina. I think it was like 1995, something like that. But yeah, and to your point, Louisville, I think Scott Satterfield totally deserved the ACC Coach of the Year from what they've done, from the dumpster fire, for better term, that program was at the end of last year to where they are now, going to the Music City Bowl and playing, I think it is Mississippi State they're playing, after the great bowl switcheroo from last weekend that left a lot of people confused about what was going on in the SEC, but we can touch on that if you want to as we talk about the Belk Bowl. But yeah, like I said, they turned the Stoops and Gran, those guys, they turned the season around, said, okay, let's take our best athlete, put him at quarterback. He played quarterback in high school and see what happens. And you saw the results. They won 5 out of their last 7. As you said, beat everybody they should. Really probably should have beat Tennessee. Couldn't get 1 yard in four plays at the end of the game, and they lost that one. But still 7-5 from the way they started and from what they lost, last year. I think maybe back when we talked earlier in the season, I thought, the upside maybe 8-4. I thought 7-5 would probably be a good pick, and that's what turned out. I think I picked them 8-4 because I think I had them winning the Tennessee game.
I will be digging out my off-season predictions a little bit later to review those against what actually happened in the season to see how well we did. So I will post that, but I'm almost positive I went 7-5 on Kentucky.
That sounds right, I believe. So I think I was 1 game up, 1 game higher. But
put on a blindfold and throw darts. Sometimes you hit. So yeah. I was able to do it that time around. How does the fan base and personally you feel about the bowl bid against Virginia Tech?
I'm happy. This something I had done. I started doing some bowl picks for Last Word on College Football, like bowl projections. And for about a month there, I actually had Kentucky and Virginia Tech playing in the Belk Bowl. And then about the last week or so of the season, changed it to the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl because that's what all the, quote, intel was where Kentucky was going to be playing. And as it turns out, originally that's where it was. And then, Tennessee decided they didn't want to go to the Music City Bowl playing against Louisville, which I think actually would have been a really, really good game, interesting game. But no, I'm happy with the Belk Bowl. I think a lot of the fan base is happy. Charlotte's only about a 6 or 7 hour drive from Lexington. So, I think they're expecting a lot of fans. I think the matchup against Virginia Tech's a really good one. They have pretty good defense and pretty good. They had two before that game against Virginia. I think they had back-to-back shutouts, and then they have a pretty good quarterback that Kentucky have to watch out for. But like I said, I think they match up well. And of course, I think the big story, or one of the big stories, is Bud Foster for Virginia Tech, the defensive coordinator. I think it's going to be his last, his final game. And obviously they're going to try to send him out as a winner, which, Kentucky's going to try to do the same with Bowden. I think, like I said, I think it's a good matchup. I think it's, I'm happy with the bowl, and I think a lot of people are.
Kevin, do you believe in conference pride? So we come bowl season, and we've got all these matchups between the SEC and the Big Ten, and the Big Ten and the ACC, and on and on and on. And the two that seem to stand out more than the others is the SEC and the Big Ten, because they're the power brokers in the sport. They're the teams that get the most eyeballs to the TV screens and the most rear ends in the stadiums, and all across the board, they've got the most money by far. It's not even close. So that SEC Big Ten rivalry seems to wage on. And then the other one, because of proximity and geography, is the SEC and the ACC. There seems to be, and all those rivalries that you're obviously very familiar with at the end of the season, with Kentucky, Louisville, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Clemson, South Carolina, those rivalries that are played between the SEC and the ACC, while the other conferences are playing rivalries within the conference. That's kind of a unique flavor to the SEC and the ACC, that they play out of conference rivalries the last weekend of the season. So how much does this matter to you and the fan base in regards to the SEC portion of it?
I don't know how much to most people it probably matters. I mean, I think the SEC, with the exception of Clemson, I think the SEC won, all of those games and won pretty handily. Obviously, Clemson handled South Carolina pretty well. I mean, I think, they have the bowl, the bowl challenge or whatever, with all the conferences, and whoever wins, gets the most wins or whatever.
Don't get me started on that. But that's just a bogus trophy that doesn't take into account how good the teams are that you play. So
right. Well, and going back to the fan base, Louisville fans, like, well, you guys wouldn't do this well. You wouldn't do this well in the ACC if you had to play Clemson, Florida State, Miami. But that's things that have been said before. Now, granted, this year I think the ACC has not been what it has been in the past, and obviously the SEC has been a whole lot better, especially at the top this year than it has been in years past. Now there's a big drop off between LSU, Georgia, then Alabama. It seems weird to put Alabama as like the third best team in the SEC this year, but that's kind of the way it worked out. But then you get to then you have Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi State. Those guys are in the middle, and then down at the bottom you have Vandy, Arkansas. Like that. But I think the top of the league is as strong as it's ever been this year. And I think I think the SEC, now I don't know about Mississippi State beating Louisville. Louisville may win that game. I don't know, Mississippi State can score enough points to hang with Louisville on that one. But I think I like the SEC and most of the other matchups.
Yeah, I really don't think there's any comparison between the two conferences. And for whomever was making that statement, certainly there have been maybe specific years when Florida State, and it's been forever that Miami was really any good, that that statement could have been made. But there are certainly isolated years. The ACC had a great year in 2016, but with the likes of Florida State in particular, then Virginia Tech and Louisville leveling off, it's just not been the same conference. And the SEC, my goodness, like this Florida-Virginia game, you've got Virginia, who's probably the second best team in the ACC. They made the championship game. That doesn't necessarily mean they're the second best team, but they're probably the second best team. And Florida's maybe the fourth best team in the SEC, the fifth best team. I don't know what they are. There's something in that range. And I just don't expect, regardless of what happens in the game, Florida's a better football team. So it's a fun rivalry. I believe it's 5-3 this year. The SEC's got 5 wins in the ACC 3. That's what I came up with in my head with all the games that we talked about the last week of the season, I believe. So obviously Georgia won, Kentucky won, and Georgia, Kentucky, and Florida won, and of course South Carolina lost. But you also had a game where North Carolina beat South Carolina, and Alabama beat Duke. Clemson beats Texas A&M. I think it adds up to 5-3. So there's a few more matchups to go, and it'll be interesting to see. And certainly those teams that whose conference doesn't play well can always say, well, it didn't really matter. And a lot of those teams mailed it in. But then if your conference does well, you can beat your chest. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it is. As you said, it's more for bragging rights than anything else. And as you said, the bowl, the trophy they get for for whatever conference. I think I looked it up. I think the last couple of years, either the Mountain West or the Conference USA league, I believe, had actually won the trophy for having the most wins or the best percentage. But of course, they only have maybe three. You had like a league go 3-1. Whereas you have 12 SEC teams to go like 6-6 or even 8-4 or something. But anyway, like I said, it's a talking point for fans between different leagues. But
sure.
Anyway, so they're
and you can take it, especially again, the SEC and the Big Ten play the toughest bowl games. So if you take the Big Ten this year, they're playing Clemson. They're playing Alabama. They're, on down the line, Auburn.
Yeah, Auburn.
And,
I think that
Oregon
I think that Auburn Minnesota game might be one of the better. I think it has potential to be one of the better bowl games of the whole season. So I'm really looking forward to that one. And then I'm also, I'm sure I know you talked with Michigan, Ohio State. I'm curious as far as the Michigan Alabama game, just to see how Alabama shows up, or if they show up, just playing in the Citrus Bowl as opposed to, that kind of thing. I think that's going to be an interesting thing as well. But I think overall it's a pretty good. I think the playoff is like probably the best, the best it's ever been between the four teams. You have three teams who obviously could win it. And then, Oklahoma with the experience of Jalen Hurts, you can't count out his experience in these situations. I'm really looking forward to it. I get to, sit back. I'm not doing any of those preview articles for Last Word. So I just get to sit back and watch, and just watch as a fan, which is the best.